You know what, Jackson? You're so hard. You're so tough. It's all facade. Got your fans, your little cheerleaders, you know that? But I'm right here. I'm right fucking here.
This isn't you.
Come on.
Talk is cheap.
Come on.
Run that shit.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm having mild stress.
Hear you.
I did
Good.
not need last minute tech issue.
I get that, right?
So how's it going? It's like second day since you've been live.
Yeah, it's going really great, to be honest with you. First day was good, and then it got crazy at about, I don't know, 7 p.m. at night, because
Okay.
two of my kids are really big on social media.
Yeah.
They did an announcement last night at, I don't know, 7:30, and it just went bonkers.
Amazing. Amazing.
You follow our hashtag, our Instagram, it just was ridiculous. So, yeah,
Well,
so that jumped up ticket sales huge, and it's just growing and growing and growing, and the word's getting out. The reviews are coming in. It's really,
amazing.
especially for that demographic. That demographic is really,
Yeah.
identified. So,
So if you can give me your potted history as a filmmaker, what's your kind of background?
so I mean, it goes way back. I don't know how far to go back, but I was always in love with storytelling from a young age. From my father used to tell my brother and I bedtime stories, right?
Nice.
And that kind of elevated to my grandfather gave my brother and I the Harvard Classics, which were Harvard's list of 50 books that if you read them, you were a well-read man, right?
Amazing.
And they're these leather-bound, beautiful books, right? And they're like Benjamin Franklin's letters, and you're like, but he knew my grandfather. It was kind of like, the perfect gift from him. And my brother and I read them, right? And my brother is, by the way, genius level, PhD, masters, it's ridiculous. But so I always loved storytelling. And I went to college, and it was an English major, emphasis on Shakespeare. And, what was I going to do with that? So I traveled the world for 3 years, right? Teaching English around the world.
Yeah.
And I wrote a novel when I was in Korea called Teaching Pans to Swim. And I was rejected by every single literary agent, publishing house in America. And I got an agent in London, Peter Cox out of
Okay.
Latopia. And
Nice.
he had just had big success because he had just published a cookbook with Paul McCartney's wife.
Oh, yeah.
So he was kind of had some big kind of fame at that point, and he got my book sold to Virgin Publishing, right? And I tried to work on that book for 2 years, and I was too young, arrogant, ignorant to understand the process. But I love storytelling, and so I moved to Hollywood to try to make a movie, and it just didn't work out, right? It was tough, and then 9/11 happened, and that took all the money out of Hollywood, right? And it
Yeah.
changed everything. It changed the world. It changed America
Yeah.
hugely. And I went and became a stockbroker. And I
Wow.
was,
Oh.
yeah. Going back to my grandfather, he also used to give my brother and I stocks as kids.
Okay.
And we're like, this isn't no fun. This isn't a fun toy, right? This certificate. But then you realize when you're older, you're like, this is the funnest toy in the world, right? Wow. But I was always good with picking stocks, and I was only going to do it short term. I was going to make enough money and then move back to LA and go back to being a writer. But I had massive success. And luckily, and I say luckily, I got diagnosed with heart disease. And I woke up in the hospital one day, and the doctor said, your life's changed forever. And I was like, genetically. And the stress levels of being a stockbroker at the time, he's like, you're not going to make it, right?
Yeah.
My blood pressure was bonkers, 180 over 120. And I sold my firm in 2008.
Yeah.
Sold my firm three weeks before the market crashed, and then I went full time back into writing. And my first goal when I moved back to Hollywood or LA was just to be a screenwriter. I just wanted to write stories. I didn't care about the other bullshit. Here's a story. You go do your other stuff. And I did that for a long time, and I had some success, and I grinded and grinded and grinded. And then I met a bunch of producers who loved what I did and loved how quick I turned it around. And that led to me being a script doctor and punching up scripts, but leaving my name off of it, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't think people realize outside of Hollywood how many writers are on a project that you'll never see their name, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a James Bond movie that has 22 writers or something, right?
Wow.
but it looked there's only two, right? Phoebe Waller-Bridge, which
Yeah.
because name, and then someone else. But you're like, no, there's 20 other people that wrote on that. Goodwill Hunting, everyone I was getting after Matt Damon. No, there's 10 others on that. So, anyways, I fell into that, and it's good money, right? And
Yeah.
but then as COVID happened, you just kind of rethink everything. And I was, I want to make my own movies.
Yeah.
Tired of waiting on people, and I went out and decided I want to write, direct, and produce. And I know enough about making films. I know great crews, and I want to make my own film.
Yeah.
And I chose Woodbridge. I chose Woodbridge for a number of reasons, and I'm sure we can talk about that. But that's kind of my quick history of me as a writer. So now I look at projects on, one, obviously I want to write them, but two, produce them. Right? I want to have some kind of creative input.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at.
More control
Yes.
over the creative vision. Always good.
100%. 100%. So
Awesome.
that's where I'm at.
Cool. So Woodbridge, I know it's based on true events, and I feel like it's a personal story. And with I know you mentioned when you approached Woodbridge, you kind of went at it already fully formed with how you were gonna market it and distribute it to a point. You were very clear. It's young people. That's who I'm targeting. They're going to be in it, and I'm going to leverage that because it's going to help me.
100%.
How did you? But first of all, why Woodbridge? Why did you want to make this story? And how quickly did you form that idea of I'm going to market this differently? I'm going to do this on this path rather than the traditional way.
Yeah. Well, it all started in COVID, right? So when COVID broke out, there was two young girls. My girlfriend's niece and nephew went to a high school. We were very close by. And two of the girls from the high school asked me if I could help them write a screenplay. And I said, I can help you, but I'm not going to write it. But if you do the homework every week, we'll get together. And that was amazing because they actually did everything. And maybe it was because of COVID. Maybe it was because they didn't have to go to school, right? Yeah. And this and that. And we met every Friday. And we chatted, and they wrote this really great script. Honestly, beautiful script. And I would love to make it. It's called Broken Eyes. And it's a very less than zero. It's hard hitting. It is kids meets less than zero. And I was, this is great. Oh, it's really good.
Yeah.
Awesome. And I said, they both come from very wealthy families, just to be honest, very wealthy. And the parents were like, well, how much could we make this? Yeah, we could probably make this for like $250,000 or something. They're like, all right, let's do it. So I said, who do you want to cast? Right. And they gave me a list of names, and I looked at the names and I was like, who the fuck are these people? Right. I had no idea who these people were. Yeah. Because I was on zero social media at the time. I wasn't on LinkedIn. I was on zero social media.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. I was not on TikTok. I was not on anything. And I was like, I don't know who these are. They're influencers. And obviously I'd heard of influencers because I read the news. I'm not an idiot, but I was like, okay, that doesn't mean anything to me. But these are they're the kids at the time. They're like, these are the kids people look up to.
Yeah.
So I'm talking to my target demographic. They're like, these are our stars, right? I said, okay, that makes sense. And it makes sense to me from a financial level to mean we probably don't have to pay them what I'd have to pay Zendaya or Timothée Chalamet or whatever.
Of course. Yeah.
I said, listen, if you get me their email addresses, I'll reach out to them, but I'm not DMing anyone, much less some 17-year-old girl. I'm not DMing. So
yeah, no, don't do that.
Yeah. I'm like, you have to get me email addresses. So they got me email addresses, and I put out a casting call. And some of the bigger TikTokers ignored it, but a lot of them are all in because a lot of these TikTokers, Instagrammers realize they have to pivot, right?
Yeah.
They have to pivot because you can't keep TikToking your whole life. It's kind of sad, right? And to be honest with you, I've learned a whole different world into that about the depression levels of these kids because they're slaves to the algorithm, literally slaves to the algorithm. It scares me, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, well, this is interesting because you kids, and I call them kids, look up to these influencers. So then my whole thing became, what's an influencer's true ability to influence, right? Can an influencer get you to buy a movie? So that was stuck in my head. So as we were putting this movie together and casting calls, I would always ask every kid, because they would always have their high school friends come by in these meetings. We always had coffee down by my house, and there's a huge area, outdoor area. I point because it's literally right behind my house.
Okay.
And a huge outdoor area. So all these kids would come by during COVID, and we'd all sit there having coffee. So you have 30, 40 high school kids. And they would share other things that we could put in the script. And I would always ask these kids, what's your favorite movie? Who's your favorite movie star? I always ask this, right? I'm always interested. And the majority of the kids answered mid-90s. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Do you like it because Jonah Hill directed it? They're like, we could care less that Jonah Hill directed it. They could care less about Jonah Hill. And I was like, oh, why'd you like it? And here's why. They said, because it's a slice of life movie that we can relate to. And they casted up and coming names. A lot of professional skateboarders, which if you're not in the skateboarding world, you would have no idea that Sonny Soljic is a professional skateboarder.
Yeah.
Right? No idea. That's really fascinating. So then my wheels were starting to turn. What if I did, because I had Woodbridge. Woodbridge I'd always written, right? That script I'd written 12 years ago, 13 years ago. So I was like, what if I did Woodbridge and I cast these influencers, up and coming kids? That's a slice of life movie.
Yeah.
And then what if we cut out, because I know Hollywood's been broken for a while, and I will constantly say that. I was like, what if there's a way to go? Because by the way, I did a movie during COVID called The Surprise Visit that we sold the traditional route to vertical entertainment. We did the whole Apple, Amazon, Tubi, blah, blah, blah. And I know those deals. I know all the deals. And I'm also come from a business background. So I marry business side with the creative side. So I was like, okay, what if I could cut all that out and go straight to these kids, right? So that's where the idea formed. So as we were coming out of COVID or whatever, I'm going to do Woodbridge. So when I went to cast it in 2022, that's what I did. I went back to a lot of kids that we had cast for the other film, but we never made that film, by the way. And the reason we didn't make that film is because one of the girls went to college. She didn't understand that you can't simply just make a movie tomorrow. It's planning, right? So, but a lot of the kids we cast, I really liked them and I wanted to use them. So when it came down to Woodbridge, I reached out to 3 of them right away. And I said, listen, I'm a very loyal person. I feel bad we didn't get to make this movie, but I have this project. It's also a coming of age thriller.
Yeah.
Read it and choose your role. I said, and I knew what roles they'd all 3 choose. I just knew. And they did. They chose those. So what's interesting is once they chose their roles, then we formed the project around that with their friends.
Yeah.
But I always was going to do self-distribution because I was always going to say, could I go directly to them?
Yeah.
So
did you do readings with them, read-throughs? Did anyone switch roles after they did read-throughs? Or were you pretty much, I know they're going to be able to do it and this is a formality kind of thing?
I believed in all of them because of their auditions for the other movie.
Yeah.
And I knew their personalities because I'd been talking to them and I knew they'd be perfect for these characters. Now, when we went to auditions and casting and they invited their friends, so they invited all their friends. And then I also had a casting director, by the way, invite a lot of people.
Yeah.
That was an interesting thing, right? Casting director / casting coach.
Yeah.
Very different, right? She was very not happy with some of the people I cast. Okay. Because she didn't think they were trained actors. And they're not.
Yeah.
I wanted kids that would react like kids, not actors.
Yeah.
So it was very interesting, but they would bring in all their friends. And once we casted the whole movie, we had this unbelievable table read, right? So we read through the script and then I opened it up. I said, okay, how can we make this script better?
Yeah.
What personal insights do you have? Do you think you can make your character better? And let's talk about that. But then I said, but before we jump into that, because I do live in California and things are pretty crazy here, I said, let's keep in mind that this story takes place in 1988.
Yeah.
Right. So what's happening today with LGBTQA, that did not happen in 1988.
Yeah.
Not where that was not happening. I did not know anyone that was gay. No one. Now, of course, you had ideas and that person seems gay, but you had no idea. No one was gay. So I said, you have to keep that in mind. Right. And once we said that and put that on the table, we had this 3-hour discussion. And I allowed kids to change dialogue. I allowed kids to add things. Like there's a scene in our movie that is 2 scenes in the movie that are completely written by the girls in the film. And I gave them credit for that. So yeah, no one ever changed roles, but they made their characters better. One of the things I've always said is there's 3 villains and 2 of the guys played their roles completely different than what I pictured.
Oh,
completely.
interesting. Yeah.
This came back to the Quentin Tarantino thing that he learned from Harvey Keitel. Harvey Keitel said to Quentin, listen, when someone comes and auditions for a role, do not tell them how to read it.
Yeah.
Let them read it their way, because you'll never know what they might bring to the table.
Yeah.
The way these two guys did it, mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. So, yeah. But I gave my kids a lot of freedom,
Yeah.
right? And they all felt, I don't know, they felt like they were really involved and respected.
Yeah.
I wasn't this director's, no, it's going to be this way. It's going to be this way.
Well, they had some agency in it. They were
Yeah.
creative agency, which allows them to really give. I
Yeah.
guess. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And listen, that worked out, because then we did a month of rehearsals.
Yeah.
And what was amazing about our rehearsals versus other rehearsals I've been in, every one of the kids was off the book right away. So we actually had real
Nice.
rehearsals where you could actually move people around, and instead of people blind, and then, it just,
Yeah.
they were so involved. Our rehearsals and our BTS from our rehearsals was so much fun.
Yeah.
Like, it's an amazing thing. And that energy, and because a lot of them were friends, right? A lot of them were friends. The chemistry on our set is mind blowing. It's just so much. It was so much fun, to be honest with you.
Amazing. When in the process did you consciously start documenting with the view of, I'm already selling this film before I'm officially selling this film? At what point were you, I'm going to start telling people what I'm doing? I'm going to start sharing behind the scenes. I'm going to start letting the kids talk about it their way. Or
Right away.
was there a plan at the beginning, or were you just kind of share, or was there a structure?
Well, that's it. So that's a really interesting. So I right away wanted to share. I had a TikTok page, an Instagram page, and we're sharing everything. And the kids were like, don't do that. Okay. So they were like, because my kids, and especially some of them that are really big on social media, they're like, Stephen, our target demographic, our audience, they're like gnats. They're just going to forget it. So unless it's coming out right away. Okay. And that's why, by the way, last night, our social media blew up because the movie was out.
Yeah.
Two of our biggest stars were always saying, listen, we can't do anything until it's out. Because their people are so much content comes at them.
There's too many things all the time.
We're filming a movie that's going to be out in a year. No one gives a shit. Yeah, they might like it right now, but they're not going to give it a shit. So that was an interesting learning for me, because I was documenting everything and I was wanting to post, and then they didn't like my post. Right? They're like, you're not doing it right, Stephen. The format's not right. So the girls took over the social media during filming.
Okay.
So all the first, if you go to the Instagram page and you look at the very beginning, those are all right. They did all those.
Oh, okay.
And I wanted to constantly document, and they didn't. So there's a little bit of a pushback, and something I'm learning. So for the next film, how we'll do it. But yeah, I always wanted to go the whole way. And it's probably good that we didn't, because that would have been a long process, because we filmed this movie in November 2022. Right. So
that would definitely be,
because what I thought was exciting, that's not exciting, right? People don't care. And I'm like, so you learn a lot from these kids. You realize, if I don't talk to them and I have this ego, well, I'm the writer director, we're going to do it this way.
I'm
going to miss the boat on their audience.
Yeah.
I've learned a ton because they know their audience better. Right?
Yeah. Interesting. So when did you start? What was your period of starting to stick it on social media? How long is that window?
So it's probably, if you look back, I think.
Sorry, I have this on my other laptop.
No. I'm saying, I think we really started about a month ago.
Okay.
We really started to, it's about a month ago. A slow drip, a very slow drip, right? And then we started increasing on the 18th, because that's when we got the trailer.
Yes,
right?
Which I remember that dropping.
Yes, we dropped the trailer, and then we had this whole strategy, because we have 12 individual teaser trailers for each character.
Nice.
So those started to drop in, and then, when the movie drops, which was yesterday, there's a whole different stuff that we're doing, right?
Yeah.
So one of the big things we're doing, part of the strategy, and why I chose KINEMA, and this might be jumping ahead.
It's all good.
is because KINEMA allows a feature on their platform for the kids to host their own virtual screenings
Yeah.
and interact with their fans. So some of my kids, again, have huge fan bases. Like,
Yeah.
one of my kids just did a video, has 47 million views. Yeah, it's bonkers, right? You're just like, those are crazy numbers.
That's insane.
They're the ones that, by the way, they're the ones that announced last night they were doing.
Yeah. Well,
So
you're doing a watch party, right, on Friday on Kinema. Is that
I am,
you are? But they're
I'm,
doing a separate thing, or
yeah, I'm allowing all the kids to
okay,
do,
yeah,
and they're taking 50% of that income. So I'm trying to empower them and also allow them to profit off of their own names,
yeah,
success, and sell the product. So because I keep telling them how great of it would be if there's a headline that says indie actor makes $50,000 back end without theatrical and streaming.
yes,
How did they do it? Everyone in Hollywood will talk about that. Everyone. Because you name me one independent actor or independent film that's paid back end to an actor, right? Now you could say Jason Blum did Purge, and Ethan Hawke got paid 14,000 for that movie, but now he's made 50 million from that franchise, right?
yeah,
But that's a little bit bigger, the budget,
yeah,
but I think that model works,
yeah,
right? And again, I was always intrigued with this kind of model from the early days of when Jeffrey Katzenberg and Meg Whitman tried to make Quibi work, right? Quibi was a brilliant idea, but they didn't go and talk to their kids. They
yeah,
didn't talk to their target demographic. If they would have talked to target demographic and been like, hey, do you care if Martin Scorsese does a 20-minute TV series with Chris Helmsworth? The kids would have been like, no, I don't give a shit. If you would have told them we're going to do a drama with Emma Chamberlain,
yeah,
the kids would have broke the internet, right?
yeah,
So again, and I kind of mind blown by that because you have two very intelligent people, right?
yeah.
The think tank behind them and the board of Quibi was mind blowing that no one saw that.
I, yeah. I mean, I hate to say it, but I mean, my limited view is that, to put it bluntly, we don't listen to the kids.
We don't, but that's the truth. And
And
you get
they're running YouTube. Like, YouTube is this
yes,
ignored platform, and I'm like, YouTube is breaking every box office record that
thank
goes
you.
by a mile.
YouTube is now being viewed more than Netflix. I have said this,
Easily, yeah,
and you can
yeah,
go back. You could AI my LinkedIn and would probably tell you how many times I've said YouTube is a big
yeah,
sleep giant
yeah.
that Hollywood has ignored, and they
Mhm.
can't ignore it now.
No,
And every one of my kids in my film, there's 18 kids in my film. Every
yeah,
one of my watches YouTube and watches YouTube only.
yeah,
My kids wanted us to actually put the movie on YouTube, and we probably will very soon,
yeah,
right? Very soon. We only did the Kinema thing simply, honestly, because one, their CEO is great. I love her.
yeah,
I love
yeah,
what
yeah. I like the
she,
concept a lot. I
yeah,
think it's
and I
really
love
good.
the
Yeah,
virtual, the interaction that they can have.
yeah,
I can't do that on YouTube right now,
yeah,
right? Now, but yes, I will 100% put this on YouTube
yeah.
because that's where my audience is at. In Hollywood, but again, Hollywood is trying to hold on to this system that's broken because a lot of jobs will be lost,
Yeah.
right? So,
I mean, they don't seem too worried about some jobs, but that's another conversation for another
yeah,
time.
yeah. I mean, we had a huge conversation about
Yeah,
Hollywood.
yeah. But coming back to, so your kids kind of took ownership of the strategy in terms of getting it out on social and leveraging their own networks, etc. But you were sort of separately doing your LinkedIn thing as well.
Yeah,
I've there's three like very different strands. Like, it's a very super thought out strategy. Like, TikTok is very much one kind of coverage, Instagram is its own slant. Then you're kind of doing the director profile building, kind of talking to the industry as
yeah,
a thought leader kind of. So it all intermeshes really
yeah,
well. But I know you've shared like a few surprises you had, or things you thought were going to work that didn't, but then
yeah.
things you were completely just taken aback by. If you could just share a couple of those, because they're quite interesting.
Well, yeah. I mean, so like the first thing, like I was just in this private equity office last week, and the guy was telling me, a good friend of mine, that when you're making a deal, there's always 5% of the deal that you'll never know. And he was talking about this vertical farming deal that they were trying to do in Dubai that made all the sense in the world, right? Everyone's going green, blah, blah, blah. You could
Yeah.
put these farms in all these cities around the world, right? And he goes, you know what happened? He's like, no one cared. No one cared. Everyone's talking about going green and doing this and doing that for an environment and blah, 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 but no one cared, right? And it made me think about my strategy where, quite simply, some people just don't care. They say they care, right? They love to say, I'm rooting you on.
Yeah.
It goes back to this whole idea of what is an influencer's true ability to influence. I don't care about likes and
Yeah.
comments.
Sorry,
They
I've got the little pop-up screen telling me I'm running out of time. I'm just trying to get rid of that. Sorry. We
Yeah.
have 10 minutes. Sorry.
Yeah.
Stress.
This idea that everyone's going to care about what I want to do.
Yeah.
They don't, right? So that was a surprise. And another surprise was some of my kids have gotten so big that maybe they've gotten too big.
Okay.
And they've different views because they have social media teams now that, yes, they curate what they're going to put.
Yeah.
So going back to TikTok, our TikTok presence is not near what I thought it'd be. Not even close to our Instagram. Not even close. And you're like, that makes no sense. We have some monster TikTokers, like monster. Now, that might shift because it goes back to now the two kids that are big on TikTok say now they can do more because the movie's out. So we'll see. So that was a surprise. That was a big surprise. Another big surprise was it made all the sense in the world for sponsorships. I said, I'm going to go out, I'm going to get sponsors for this party because I can get 200 million impressions on TikTok or Instagram for a sponsor. And all my kids have worked with some major brands, Guess Jeans, all these different ones. We're going to go to them and say, would you like to sponsor the party? I thought that'd be a lit, right? Citibank from day one, they were in. And then Citibank did massive layoffs and everyone got fired. But here's the thing. None of those brands have come through. Which was wow. And that's one that I'm really kind of surprised by, to be honest with you. Christy from KINEMA is our party, if you look at our guest list for our party, there is some huge names, not just in the TikTok influencer world, but huge celebrities, right? We have some of the cast from Wednesday and Euphoria coming. And you're like, God, if that's your target demographic, I'm going to have the biggest party in Hollywood on the 11th. It's in an outdoor venue that's gorgeous. And no one got involved except for I shouldn't say no one. We have a tequila company, Superbird. I had a lot of companies willing to give free stuff.
Yeah. But
I don't want to promote your stuff.
You want a proper sponsorship.
That was a massive surprise, to be honest with you.
Do you get the sense that might change if in this second phase now that
100%.
Yeah.
I think 100% it will. I think especially with there's a virtual screening tonight.
Yeah.
With like two biggest TikTokers are doing one together. We've literally broken our Instagram. We have 1,000 followers, and I think that will, because there's a creator app, by the way.
Yeah.
I won't name who, but they expressed a ton of interest, and then they just ghosted me, which is weird because they're coming to the party. Well, that's not going to go well. But yeah, that's been a big surprise, to be honest with you. It's been, and then truthfully, you get a ton of support on LinkedIn, and I had my movie on KINEMA. I think I had 62 reshares.
Yeah.
People posted about it. 5 individual people posted about it, and you're like, oh. But then those numbers don't pay out. And then I don't know if people realize, I see the name of the person that bought the ticket.
Yeah.
Right? On the KINEMA gives you the name and the email. So but that could change, and that's fine. I thought there'd be more people to sign up for my Q&A on Friday, given the feedback I've gotten on LinkedIn. No. So that's a surprise.
It might be a last minute one. I don't know. I feel like people are very impulsive these days. Everything's done last minute. Like,
that's probably me too, right? I'm not probably going to sign up for something. I'll put it in my calendar and then I go, shit, I got to go buy a ticket.
Yeah.
So there's a couple of those learning things. And there's things that I've learned that I now would, going forward, doing a different project, I would do it a little bit different, 100%.
Give me a couple of examples. We've got 5 minutes and I'll have to wrap this up, unfortunately.
The main thing will 100% lay out the complete strategy from day one. day one, write it down, expectations, right? Here's what we're going to do. Here's how we're going to do it. How do we do it? Second thing, contracts. With every contract with any person, it will have their specific amount of posts that I need from them on Instagram and TikTok or all social media. Okay. I assumed because they're big on social media that they would be excited.
Yeah.
I assumed that when we said we need X amount of posts, that would have no problem with that. Now, going forward, just like they do with Dune 2, Timothy Chalamet and Deha in their contracts, you will do this, and that for I will do the same.
Yeah.
Because as close as I am with some of these kids, and I'm very close with some of them, I've helped them get in other projects, that hasn't paid off the way I thought it would.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's a learning thing, and that's fine. But that's something I would do differently. And then I would, with the sponsors going forward, with the party being hopefully a success and some of the names that are coming, because there's people at the party that people covet, that they want.
Yeah.
We have this person, they're going to be there. Why?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe people are like, this is still new, so let's see how it goes.
I think it might be that it's the we'll believe it when we see it kind of attitude of we'll watch what happens and then we'll jump in. I don't know. I'm guessing.
Well, it's when you think about branded entertainment, right? That's the
Yeah.
new buzzword in Hollywood. Branded entertainment. It's everywhere I go. It's branded entertainment, and it's because how do you reach this target demographic? Because they has no ads. Well, you have to put it in stuff that's organic content. Well, I'm doing that for you, right? So I don't know. Maybe because again, it's an indie thing and it's not on Netflix. It's not. So there seems to be this kind of judgment about it, right? And that's the thing too. There's still these people that think when you go to pitch a show and you want sponsorship before you make a movie, the first questions they always ask is who's in it, what A-list talent, and where's the distribution? Because if you don't say it's in theaters or it's on streaming, they are like, oh. But now what if you can say, I can get you 200 million views on TikTok and on YouTube?
Yeah.
That should mean something. It still doesn't. It's getting there.
It's a snobism. I feel
it is.
It's a total snobism of
100%.
This isn't real cinema if it's on a phone. I'm like, maybe it's not in your world, but if you're 18, they don't give a shit.
Thank you.
They do not give a shit about real cinema. They care
100%.
about people speaking their language in a way that they get.
100%. They consume content in a whole different way. So for Hollywood to ignore that, and then I think it's funny because then I'm like, but Jeffrey Katzenberg clearly saw there was an opportunity. He just packaged it. But I agree. I think these big brands, and we've had these conversations, seem very excited, but then it's like, it's total snobbing. If I would have said we're on Netflix, I could have probably been sitting on bags of cash right now, right?
Yeah.
And it's just, you kind of just like shake your head and you're like, okay, right? Because I can tell you right now from the party alone, some of these kids, when they get together and they go Instagram Live or TikTok Live, you're going to see crazy numbers from them.
Yeah.
And I'm going to send snapshots to all the sponsors and be like, that could have been your logo.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. So.
Well, I have to wrap this up. I'm really sorry. I could chat for hours about this. But thank you so much. I'll probably follow up with more things that I think about, but I think this is really interesting. I'll be watching as well because I'm really curious to see this next bit now.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, and enjoy all the parties.
All right. Thank you. Have a brilliant day.
Thanks. Bye.